Right, as we begin to get underway with the picks and bans of the second round, first round, of course, going against Vengeance in favour of the other team. I'm terribly sorry, I appear to have forgotten exactly who was who. In favour of Team BZmen, with the bans now coming out, Twisted Fate and the Nunu band. Fairly common ban for Nunu, just the sheer fact that he's such a jungle bully, it really prevents him out. Eve being banned after she was used so well in the previous game, just able to do so much. To really pressure the other team, really make it so that there wasn't really a lot that they could do. They fell into the using so much gold to try and stop the Eve, and yet the Eve was still so potent that she was able to really hammer them down. So the Lissandra ban as well. I'm wondering if this is specifically some sort of countered ban, or whether it's just something against the comp that they're trying to run that they really just don't want to see. So the Jace ban as well. Not wanting to really see Jace again. Jace with that endless EQ poke, really potent, really frustrating to play against, and Janna is being immediately picked up for Vengeance again. Well, for Vengeance this time. So it'll be interesting to see what they choose to go for. The Nami and the Shen. Nami being very potent in very aggressive combinations, with very aggressive AD carries, being able to really force home that advantage, trying to really force mistakes out, while Shen does the complete opposite. And the same thing at the same time. He's able, once he hits that level 6, he's able to move around the map, he's able to split push, he's able to then give his teammates the freedom of knowing if they get in trouble, he can use that Stand United, he can come over to them, he can give them that shield, he can give them his presence in that fight from no matter where he is. Just the global presence of knowing Shen could turn up at any point, being extremely strong. And we see the Elise immediately chosen, most likely to try and lane against the Shen, able to really try and hammer him down, try and stop that sustain coming in from Shen, and really try and push down. We also see the Renekton. It's be very interesting to see what they try to do with the Elise. It may be jungle Elise, so with the long range stun, with the large amount of base damage that Elise has, she can be extremely potent when ganking lanes. Whereas Renekton is still able to really try to pressure Shen out of lane. Renekton's extremely good at just bullying champions out, stopping them from being able to really sustain through him. With the Nocturne being picked up and the Orianna. So the Orianna mid it's a fairly safe pick. There's not a lot of things that can really beat out Orianna as a whole. She's going to be able to sit, she's going to be able to farm, she's going to be fairly supporty. She's going to be able to also use that ultimate on Shen when he gets into those fights and really force them into a very tight area, which will help with those Nami ults, with those Nami Qs for CCing the enemy. While Nocturne's he's going to want to gank a lot. He's going to want to, with that presence of being able to ult in, they may try to weave some of that Shen in, so Shen may ultimate onto the Nocturne as Nocturne ults to try and turn it into some very wacky face to really try and make some plays happen. So the Ezreal is again being picked up for Sovereign. He picked it up last game, was fairly strong with it, managed to get his blue build together reasonably quickly, but was just not able to pull out the damage that the Caitlyn on the enemy side could. And it looks like the Syndra coming out for the other team. So Syndra being a very good pusher, can play as very aggressive in lane, very good at focusing out a single target, or trying to land those incredibly long range QE stuns, which can really force teams out of position. And he just deciding to go for the Vayne at the last minute with the Janna. Be interesting to see how it turns out. The Graves picked up along with the Nami, again, falling into that amount of aggression they're going to try and put forward. Nami is very aggressive as a support, and Graves can really benefit from that by getting in close, so she can use those W's on him to keep him healthy and to damage the enemy. So very aggressive lane going to be coming in bot, with essentially what's going to have to be a protect the Vayne composition. So the Syndra with the stun, with those stuns, with those knockbacks, the Renekton being that beefy person and picking up the teleport to follow that Shen. That with the Janna, able to, with those peels, to really try and protect that Vayne while she does what Vayne does best, which is just do as much damage to everyone as she possibly can. Try and really force anyone who gets within her range to just melt. And it's going to be interesting to see how they can try and keep her alive, mainly throughout the laning phase. If they can manage the laning phase to a fair degree, then their team fights just get that much stronger. Interesting to see the Orianna pick up the barrier instead of the Ignite that's also being taken on Syndra. It shows that she's willing to play a fair bit more defensively. She's going to try and essentially bait people in with probably with those double shields. She doesn't feel she needs that extra damage. So it'll be very interesting to see how, again, two very conflicting styles of play that they're going to have to try and bring together. It's going to be interesting to see how they try and bait the other team into playing into the way that they want. The blue team are really going to be forced to play extremely cautiously throughout the early game, just because of the aggressive options that have been chosen. Hopefully, this won't be one of those 50-minute games that ended up dragging on a fair bit. It's one of those situations where they were playing so cautiously not to throw that it just made the game a lot longer than it realistically needed to be. Unfortunately, they had such that lead that they hadn't quite got to the point where that lead was starting to fall apart, but they were beginning to approach it, where Vengeance were able to almost start getting those last items together to essentially make it down to team composition. And that's not the situation that they need. That's the situation they needed to have, but they were just stopped before they could start picking up those last items. So, just a short delay before the game starts, and then we'll get underway. So, as we come into this game, it's very interesting to see if any sorts of aggression really come out this time, in coming heavily in favour of Team BZmen last time. That maybe Venegance they'll just try to sit back and defend what they've got, and just try to keep a hold of both of their own buffs.
Welcome to Summoner's Rift.
So just covering this choke point. The ward goes down from Nami, just to make sure that no one's going to come up this way. Just the ward coming down from Jalo in essentially the same location, just to make sure that there's no funny business going on. They seem to both be perfectly content to just sit back, just to say, this is what we want to do. This is how we want to play. We're just going to play straight up. So unfortunately we have the delay because of the AD carry is lagging considerably for Team BZmen. Just trying to get that resolved, just to try and keep it as balanced as possible. So really, both teams perfectly content to just sit back in their own jungle, just start the way a normal game would start, without any, funny invades. The average game, you're not really going to see people invade that often. You're just going to see nice, casual play. And that's what they're vouching for this time.
A summoner has disconnected. A summoner has reconnected.
So hopefully, with the Graves now reconnected, hopefully not lagging anymore, hopefully should be able to unpause the game and just get back on track. And there we go. So, again, both just happy to sit back, happy to say, we're okay with what we've got this time. Shen staying back, getting that extra potion just to keep him up. He's used his ward down here, and as such won't have it in lane. I wonder if the blue team will actually be able to pick up on this and maybe get some early ganks going onto him, because he's not going to be aware of it. He's not going to know that they're coming. Whereas Renekton, they've actually vouched for the lane swap now. So Renekton's going to be trying to lane against a very aggressive Graves and Nami combination. The question being, is he going to be able to resist an extremely potent combination? Shen has a slight advantage in that he can use his Q to try and farm out some of these creeps. He is slightly more sustained overall, as long as he can keep using those Qs. But Nami's just going to do a great job of just keeping Renekton out of range. He's not going to get anywhere close. He's just going to continually get poked down, while Graves just sits back, gets a couple of levels before he begins to try pushing. Shen just, again, being completely zoned out by the AD carry support combination. He can't afford to take unnecessary hits. So using that key strike, using that Q to try and get as many last hits as he possibly can. He just needs to keep in line with Renekton. Overall, he needs to ensure Vayne can't get that 3-hit combination on him. Just to try and stop him taking as much damage as he possibly can. He needs to try and keep himself healthy. He needs to really win out his lane to the best of his ability. Graves now beginning to pressure onto the tower. Nami able to just queue him up. Nami, giant misplay there, gets caught by the Renekton, but the Renekton, in his aggression, tries to come back, uses his flash as well, unable to really get anywhere because he's holding that teleport. Graves just forced to retreat off, seeing the Elise, realises he's going to be pushed off for a little while, and just deciding to back off. Gold extremely even for both teams. Graves getting caught, being beaten up, unable to really fight back, just due to the fact that Elise is already level 4, he's only level 2. With those double buffs, really able to hurt. Nocturne trying to come behind Syndra for a gank, realising she's very low on mana right now. She's been chunked down a little bit. She started with that Doran's, trying to see what he can do, but overall he's just sort of wasting his time. Syndra coming in, getting a combination of, it's going to kill Renekton, it's going to kill Nocturne. It's a massive misplay from Nocturne, giving away that double buff to Syndra, forcing, essentially his mid lane has been forced to come out. She may even go down. Orianna forced to use that barrier combination. Elise managing to get out. One of those turrets, it actually went to one of her spiderlings instead of her. Just trying to come around, trying to see if she can then pressure Orianna some more. Managed to almost stop her backing. Elise then running through, taking the tower hits, stopping the last one with the repel and going to the enemy wolves. Nocturne knows where she is, so if he can come through quickly enough, he may be able to come and finish her off. She's coming in through the tower. She's going to be able to get away freely. This top lane, Shen's doing remarkably well just to keep himself going, keep himself getting considerable amounts of farm. He's managed to actually catch hold of the Janna, but in doing so managed to take a considerable amount of damage from the Vayne. Managing to keep himself going, he's keeping that turret as healthy as he can, trying to stall out for as long as possible, while his bot lane tries to do the same thing. So Graves just electing to just try and push down. Renekton taking a lot of creep aggro, really taking a lot of hits from them. Has to be really cautious with his health, as Nami can really can sustain that Graves through. So Elise is coming back down as well, just to try and back Renekton up, trying to slow down the death of the turret for as much as possible, to try and allow his Vayne to try and get the lead by doing so. And Syndra's killed off Orianna. The double buffs just proving out to be too powerful. The extra damage coming from those auto attacks in form of true damage done. The extra ability to use damage, and the fact that Syndra's level 7 and Orianna is only level 5, really makes things difficult. That Syndra, if she can get as many orbs out as she can really do a lot of damage. Janna with the misplay, getting taunted in by the Shen, getting killed off, meaning Shen's now essentially 1v1, and managing to keep himself going. Still, he's only just using his third pot. He's managing to do fantastically well just to keep his health fairly high and to stop Vayne getting too many free shots onto this tower. Meanwhile, Graves is they're just starting to hit the stride bottom. So Graves being able to get that ultimate fairly soon, being able to try and use his abilities to try and force the Renekton out of lane. As the Renekton's he hasn't really gone back yet. He's not gone back, he's not got his items, he's only got that cloth armour. Nocturne is donating blue off to the Orianna to try and rebalance out that mid. Syndra's managed to get herself a considerable lead, almost doubling the CS and getting the 2 kills, really proving powerful. Orianna's really going to have to just sit back, play defensively, try and get that farm up, while Syndra's just going to be allowed almost to roam if she chooses. There's not really a lot Orianna can do in return. She can't wave clear anywhere near as well. Shen just elected to go in, try and stop Vayne being able to take this tower, but because he's not been able to go back, it's unlikely he's going to be able to do so, and the top tower is going to fall. So with the gold advantage beginning to swing back in terms of that they've managed to pick up the extra kills. They've managed to get largely the kills that matter. That first kill on Nocturne was so important for giving up that double buff. That double buff then meant that Syndra could play so aggressively in mid that there wasn't really a lot Orianna could do. Just Syndra able to really put down the hurt at the moment. Able to land those long range stuns, really stopping Nocturne from being able to do anything. With Elise able to come in, the Shen Nocturne, unfortunately, the double buff's being transferred to Shen, but the 1-for-1 being given up. Not sure that was entirely worth it, just for those 2 ultimates. The Shen ultimate, having such a long cooldown, is incredibly important. You know, the cooldown being what it is. I mean, he's got 168 seconds worth, so he's got essentially 3 minutes where the enemy team are going to be able to go out, they're going to be out to pressure, they're going to be able to do things like take the dragon, because they realise what's going to happen. Shen can't move around the map anywhere near his finish. He's lost that pressure, and unfortunately it's going to be ending up as a misplay. Orianna getting caught out in the enemy jungle, Nami having to be used to defend, but the dragon being picked up freely for blue team, giving that extra gold advantage is just going to be pretty massive. 10 minutes into the game to be getting a lead in terms of both the tower and a dragon, it's going to be big. So Graves and Nami just continuing to try and play aggressively, but they were just stopped off by the fact that Elise kept coming bottom. She kept preventing them from pushing that tower. And Syndra has now forced the mid tower to go down. There was nothing Orianna could really do in return. She's under-leveled, she's under-farmed, there's no real retaliation she can bring in. And we appear to have another pause. Just have a double check as to why.
A summoner has disconnected.
Some rather aggressive comments coming out from each team. little sad to see. As much as it's deemed as a bit of banter, you never really know if it's meant in that intent or not.
A summoner has reconnected.
So let's hope that that's the end of the issues. See if Nocturne can auto-attack anymore. As it currently appears not, as he seems to be dying to the Wraith camp. It seems to be unable to fight back against them. May start dying to them if he's not careful. It's rather odd to see. Just not able to hit them. Or bot lane because a severe amount of aggression going on. Bot lane just continuing to be aggressive. They've got Elise constantly down here. Elise is constantly keeping Graves and Nami under check. See, they know that Syndra's down here also, so they're being prevented from really trying to rebalance that turret out. They realise that there's not really a lot they can do to defend the turret, even with the three of them. Orianna is 2 levels behind still, and a lot of gold. There's not really a lot she can do. And we appear to have another pause. I believe this actually might not be a bug that's actually repairable by actually reconnecting. It might be because of the time that he died. Because he died in midair with that ultimate, he may not be able to auto-attack. It is a bug that has happened on occasion before. It's happened with numerous other champions. If they're stopped in animation, sometimes it just kills them off. I mean, sometimes dying may help. It's almost like the butterfly Shen, where you could move around, but you couldn't cast. You were stuck in that E animation. So I believe we're going to see the Nocturne try to suicide, to try and see if he can fix the bug, while the enemy team just stay still. So Nocturne just running down, just going to run into the tower and suicide, while everyone on the map apparently stands still. So Nocturne just dying off to see if it fixes the bug. continued aggression with the blue team, pushing down on this tower, getting caught with that Oriana ultimate, but she's not got enough for it to really make much difference. The tower's still going to go down, regardless. So the gold lead is really starting to pick up in favour of Team Vengeance, and they're going to try and contest the blue buff as well. Really being able to use that advantage from it. Syndra coming in, flashing with those orbs up, being able to then ult onto the Nami, just completely decimating her, grabbing an additional kill. Just double check to see if Nocturne can actually also attack yet. And there we go, he can. So even the red buff now just being taken by Team Vengeance, just pulling it round, just making sure that when Nocturne comes around to see where it is, that it's not there. He's not going to have any idea what's going on with it. Realising the mini lizards are attacking and goes to have a look in the bush. Nothing he can do about it, it's already gone. Very calculated aggression coming on at the moment, all surrounding this Syndra that's managed to get these kills, managed to get this advantage. Now has a three level advantage over this Oriana, who just is unable to really do anything to stop her at this point. That misplay from Nocturne early really has cost a lot in the terms of she's just taken those buffs, killed the Oriana, been able to snowball incredibly hard from there, whereas there's not really been any ability to come back. There's not really been any ability to try to use the Shen ultimate. So Shen, they know he's just sitting around. He doesn't want to fight the Renekton at this point. Renekton's rather tanky with the Sunfire. They each have the Sunfire, but Renekton with that higher base damage, they're just happy enough to trade farm at this point. Shen beginning to realise that his damage is slightly higher, so he can afford to trade out. Blue team just coming in. They're not double checking with wards, interestingly enough. They feel secure enough to be able to take down the dragon. The Shen Nocturne combination coming is There's a 5-man red team down here, managing to kill off that fair Syndra. Now focusing down that lane, trying to take it down. But she manages to get over. She manages to then kill off the Nocturne and flash out. Will she be able to get away? And I believe she will. Vayne just continuing to hit on that Graves. Graves coming up and saying, I'm going to try and go for that Elise. Renekton finally getting to bot after running down. And it seems as though it's going to be a 1-for-1. The Dragon's going to go in favour of the blue team. There's not really a lot that the red team can do in defence of this. Unfortunately, they're behind. They're behind. They seem to realise it, and just the sheer damage that's coming up, they don't quite have enough. The Nocturne going for that Spirit of the Elder Lizard, but he's being so badly melted in fights. There's not really a great deal that he can do. He's just being beaten up before he can hit, before he can really unleash his combination. Syndra now, with this complete Deathfire Grasp, able to increase her magic damage by an additional 20%, along with her combination, means even the full health Shen really needs to be cautious against her. Just the ability to really combo someone down with some clever play from Syndra is absolutely astronomical. She can really just force what she wants to happen. As shown here, she's now just pushing him around, beating him up, now going to use everything on him, and he's going to be taken down by the Ignite, but from full HP, she just begins her combination, firing off those Qs, firing off everything she's got, using that Deathfire Grasp ultimate combination, and just taking him down. Meanwhile, Elise taking the chance to push up, realising that this Orianna is so far behind that actually she as the jungler can really just take her 1v1. Orianna is just falling so far behind. Nami and Graves just trying to be aggressive but not really having anything they can do. Nami trying to get these wards out, trying to fight back, but there's not really a great deal for her to do. There's not really anywhere for her to go. She's just being picked off while trying to contest the buff. And a free kill goes to Vayne. It just seems to be that they're just not playing properly. They're collapsing too much. They're trying to focus on what's happened too much. What they really needed to do was just try and keep Orianna going. Instead, she shouldn't be allowed to fall behind, and she just can't come back. So they're just going round almost as a 5-man death squad, and they're just doing as they please. It's a favourite window. Nocturne, realising the combinations are working, goes in, Janabox forces him into a wall, and Vayne's able to easily pick him up. Syndra, managing to get her damage off, managing to try and keep the Shen at bay, but unfortunately dies in the process. Shen also going to be taken down in return for taking down that Syndra. So it ends up as a 2-for-1 exchange. Still coming out in their favour, with damage being done to the turret and the turret being taken. I'd have to say that goes in favour of Team Vengeance. So again, it's keeping these waves constantly pushing, making sure the pressure is constantly on red team. Sorry about that, my voice is dying off. Forcing them to come and decide between losing CS, losing health on towers, or losing the towers that they want to go for. It's trying to give them a paradigm in which they can't really get any advantages. It's constant loss. And as much as they keep trying this Nocturne, Orianna, Shen combination, it's just not working. It's being countered too much by the Janna, by the amount of CC that they're then able to immediately apply. They're just built as a protect the Vayne combination, so the Vayne is able to just sit back, sit down, and nuke whoever she wants, whoever's close enough to her. It's not going to matter too much, as she's built largely attack speed. With those silver bolts, she's going to be doing decent chunks of damage on almost anybody, and there's not really a lot they can do about it. Shen just trying to get those taunts off where he can. There's still not a great deal he can do. His ultimate's still on cooldown. The same with Nocturne. Well, almost every cooldown's just come back up for Team Vengeance. They're just endless. It's just turning into another siege game. There's not really a great deal that either team are willing to really go ahead and go for risky plays. Team Vengeance don't need to, but Red Team really need to try and bring themselves back into this. They need to get that vision going. They need to make sure that if someone splits and they can catch someone off guard, that they do so without hesitation. Which unfortunately, due to the low number of wards that are actually out for them, I'm not sure they can do. So Shen, with that ultimate now back up, now able to start split pushing again, start trying to apply some reverse pressure, which is what he really needs to do. When that ultimate's down, he can't actively be elsewhere on the map. He needs to be with his team, otherwise they're at risk of losing fights. Graves just being forced away while they just push up this wave. They realise that Shen's top. They can see that Oriana is mid, and they're just choosing to try and keep them into their base. Try and prevent them from farming those jungle creeps as much as they can. To try and keep them gold locked into just what little tries to get into the towers. Taking the opportunity to go back now, to try and, build up the items. Shen grabbing what's essentially a vital tower. He needs to try and apply pressure, and to give that gold back to his team allows them to play a little bit more aggressively. Maybe try and get some more of those wards going to try and make those plays. He's done his job in that he's forcing Renekton to now go top. If he can now... It's points like these where they need to be able to then say, we need to try and collapse in on somebody. We need to get rid of the wards that are around. To try and pick some people off. We need to create this gold sink that we can sink our teeth into. Unfortunately, as it stands at the moment, there's not really a great deal they can do. They're just trying to push their lanes out, try and remove some of the pressure, but at the same time, it's not going to help them regain any of the gold that they need to try and bring up to come back into line. They need to really they really need making a play for something. If it's for a champion, great. If it's for anything else, then they just need to do it properly. They need to catch people out. I mean, they know the Vayne's bot, and so they are beginning to move in that direction. But Vayne, realising that she's pushed up, is just going to go back and pour. They need to do these things much earlier. They need to really know what's going on a lot better. So we have a fight going off between Renekton and Shen. Shen, just with that armour, large amounts of armour being built, is just going to tank through Shen. He's just going to be able to say, I can sit here, I sit on you, and this Sunfire will start killing you. Meanwhile, continually being boxed in mid, Graves being forced to go bot, to try and push these waves away, to try and bring his gold back up into line. Nocturne just trying to keep himself going. He's 5 deaths down, having to start building incredibly tanky at this point, but unable to really get in and do any significant damage because he's just been melted by the carries of Team Vengeance. Shen just continually, he's holding Renekton top. He's making sure that if he leaves, then they're going to start taking damage on this middle tower. But trying to do it in a very safe way that makes sure that he doesn't then give away more gold in doing so. So Graves continuing to push up, realising that the majority of the blue team's top, and this turret's lead down, finally manages to get the tower. So manages to get himself a nice little bit of added gold, try and get some of those items back, to try and bring it back into the game. They're just trying to secure the Baron. They realise that there's going to be some wards around. They haven't spotted that ward, so the red team they've now spotted it. They did know that they're really trying to make a play for Baron, so they're going to try and regroup up in mid. Shen's going to be being Shen. He's going to be wherever he needs to be. He's going to try and ult in later. But if the target gets bursted, that's not really going to be a fantastic thing. Manages to get the ult in Oriana protected. They're really trying to focus down this Vayne. In the meantime, Syndra's just come in, decimated their AD carry, and Vayne really manages to escape very well. Takes a lot to take it down, and it's really going in favour of losing the 3-for-1 exchange. Nami managing to get away, Shen managing to get away, but all in all, not a fair trade for them. They're behind, they're still losing fights. That wasn't a fight to pick. Though it was a straight flat up 5v5. They need to be far more cautious when allowing the enemy team to engage. They didn't want to just straight away say, we're going in, we're gonna shut up. They need to try and disengage it. Try and spread the fight out a bit more. Otherwise it's gonna start having problems. Shen managing to do fantastic, actually manages to take the Syndra out. This Shen is really going man mode on them. A lot of the time he's doing fantastically well at just getting those taunts and towers, getting the extra damage, and really beating people up. It's unfortunate that they just they don't have the damage to kill that Vayne quickly enough. Whereas Syndra is just able to get on Graves and just completely remove him from the fight.
Blue team's turret has been destroyed.
So they managed to pick themselves up an additional turret based from that Syndra death, and they realise that Dragon's up, so they're going to try and contest it at this point. Nami's managed to pull together enough gold for the armor, so they know it's not needed. They're going to try and grab additional gold to try and pull themselves back into this. And they managed to get it. They managed to bring back the deficit to 6k. So they're managing to pull back some gold based simply, largely from that Shen play. Managing to pick off that Syndra was huge. But they're now just beginning to realise that the enemy team's going to go straight for Baron. They've got 5 men up. They have Vayne. Vayne is, even with those silver bolts, only doing reduced damage, is still going to do it. An extra 200 damage every 3 hits. True damage to that Baron. It's really going to add up. Gotg trying to get in, really just being beaten up by the combination of Vayne and Syndra. Shen managing to get in, managing to clean up the Janna, but not able to survive the damage of both carries. Especially with the Baron buff still being given to Team Vengeance, and they end up with the 1-for-1 exchange. But Shen's going to go down too, which is a considerable loss considering he managed to get himself onto the spree. So more gold going to Elise, and overall the red team just not able to pick fights very well. They got the dragon, but they just it was maybe a misplay in fact. Just the fact that Syndra was just coming up. Maybe they should have just continued to push the towers, but apply more pressure so that they can't go straight for the Baron immediately, just to try and prevent anything from going on. Because the Baron buff is just worth so much at this point in the game. It's just a case of they're going to be able to siege better. Syndra's going to be able to keep attacking constantly. Going to be able with the Void Staff, Rabadon, Deathcap combination, going to be able to take nearly anyone. Shen's not really going to be much tankier versus her, because she's just going to keep going, keep increasing the damage to really high proportions. Nocturne just not able to get into this game at all, with 7 deaths now, only with 2 core items, just not able to really come back. Nami getting caught by the Elise and just being shredded. There's not really a lot the red team can do at this point. They're just, it's similar to the last game. They're just going to be sieged out of this. It's going to be a case of how long can red team try to defend. And I'm not sure it's as long. Just the sheer damage coming from this Vayne is really. Vayne's managed to be taken down by Shen. Shen really keeping them in this game, really doing a lot of damage. Manages to really take down the Janna, and then manages to take down Janna as well, before Shen finally gets taken down. So we currently have essentially, but then Syndra comes in, just that damage coming from Syndra is ridiculous. Just that combination, just no MR, just shredding it all. At least full HP Syndra, nearly dead, but still so deadly. Venegance just saying, I'm going to come push this in here, and we're just going to take it down. It ended up being with was essentially a 4-for-2 exchange, just, again, just being caught out. It's just high levels of aggression that essentially they realise they can just turret dive at this point. They're not scared of them at all. They realise that Baron buff is huge for them. Syndra's doing so much damage, there's not anything she can do. She's hitting those long range stuns. There's just no retaliation. They're just lining the CC up so well. Orianna's just being focused out in the same way Nocturne is. The only real saviour for them has been Shen, who's kept them in this game this long, but Shen is one of those characters he really can't carry. He's really not going to be able to keep them in the game forever. His damage is going to start to sort of dwindle as natural resistances begin to build up. He's going to be less and less noticeable. So as time goes on, he's going to fade out. I mean, the 12k deficit at this point, I can't really see them coming back. They're not really able to really catch anyone off. I mean, the ward coverage in difference is insane. You have 4 wards here. You have 4 wards here. You have the 9th ward there, versus what's essentially 2. They're just able to. Vayne's just going to come around and say, "I'm roaming around your jungle on my own, and you're moving away from me." It's just that kind of deficit. Vayne's going to be able to kill anyone she gets on with that combination of items. With the last Whisper now being added on, being able to add that second Phantom Dancer, it's just going to be huge. She's just chunking anybody, no matter how much armor they've picking up. True damage and the last Whisper are just going to allow her to just continue. Shen just doing what he can to push lanes out, try and apply some pressure. His ultimate is up, which allows him to, move around. He's not got to be overly cautious, but at the same time, he's got to be careful of himself, because as much as he's tanky, he doesn't know if he can get caught out by the Syndra. The Syndra being as far ahead as she is now is just so scary. You do not want to face her alone. She knows how to land those stuns. It just turns into this endless siege. It just turns into the five-man team defending, while the blue team, they just move about. They just kind of try and split push their way around. They force them to move around. So immediately they see Vayne, they realise we've got to go top. We've got to try and prevent this tower from being pushed out and pushed down. While Venegance he's just standing in the front line. They have a very strong protect the Vayne combination. Vayne, being this incredibly squishy but incredibly high damage character, is just going to be able to melt them if she can be protected enough. With the Janna Monsoon, with the pushback from Syndra, with the Renekton, and with the Elise being able to just continually land these stuns, they're just going to be able to. Vayne's fairly safe. I mean, Shen's coming on top. Look at the damage she's just still putting out to Shen, especially from Syndra. Syndra just abusing the fact that the items she's bought and absolutely tearing them to shreds. Jensen just going completely man mode into that many of them. There's not really a lot they can do. Janna just heating everyone back up, trying to pick up those extra kills as soon as they can, and then just gonna completely decimate this tower. Most likely take the inhibitor as well, fairly uncontested. Graves trying to come in, trying to get that Q-R combination, just being those stuns being coming in, and they just decide to surrender the game. They realise almost 20k deficit was just too much. Which unfortunately takes the game into the last one. It forces the last game to really be the game